Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down the absolute madness of Alabasta, chapter by chapter, and today we're on one that moves at 100 miles an hour.
This is chapter 176, Rushed, a very, very appropriate title.
Oh, it is. And look, we're going to get into all of it. The escape, the chaos, the giant crab. But this chapter contains a single order from Luffy that completely changes the game. It redefines his entire relationship with the Marine who's been hunting him since day one.
It's a moment of profound character insight, happening in the middle of a literal flood. It shows you exactly who Luffy is when the chips are down and everyone's life is on the line.
It's the kind of moment that makes you realize you're following the right future king. If you want to make sure you're right here with us when we see him finally claim that throne, do us a favor and follow the show on whatever platform you're listening on. It ensures you won't miss a single step of the journey.
And this step is a big one. It begins right where we left off, trapped in a sea stone cage at the bottom of a VIP casino room with giant crocodiles circling.
The Bananawanis, and one of them is acting weird. It kind of gags and then just spits out this giant wax ball, and the crew is just staring at it. Like, what in the world is that? I mean, you're already in the weirdest situation imaginable, and then that happens?
It's the perfect Oda touch. The solution to their problem isn't going to come from a moment of brilliant strength, but from a moment of pure, unadulterated absurdity. The Bananawani, which Crocodile sicked on Mr. 3 for his failure, has now delivered him directly to the people who can use him. Crocodile's own cruelty created the instrument of their escape.
Talk about poetic justice. So the ball cracks open and out pops Mr. 3, Galdino, still in his ridiculous outfit, looking absolutely overjoyed. He thinks he's finally free after being eaten.
He has this grand speech prepared. I'm free! Freedom is wonderful! He's celebrating his own survival, completely oblivious to his surroundings. This is Galdino in a nutshell. Utterly self-absorbed, with a flair for the dramatic and zero situational awareness.
The timing is just perfect villain comedy. He's celebrating his great escape and has no idea he's just landed in a cage with the very people he tried to turn into wax statues back on Little Garden. The look on his face when he realizes where he is, priceless. You can practically hear the record scratch in his brain.
And it's not just the Straw Hats. He's also face-to-face with Smoker, a Marine vice admiral. From his perspective, he has just escaped death only to land in a cage with his mortal enemies and the law. It is, quite possibly, the worst place in the world for him to be.
And then he sees it. Attached to his ridiculous hair, which is styled into a giant number 3, is a small wax key. The key to their cage. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
It's another example of Crocodile's arrogance. I always figured he didn't just throw Mr. 3 away. He had a custom sea stone cage built, and he kept a key. But he didn't keep it on his person. He had Mr. 3 make a wax copy and attach it to him as a final cruel joke before feeding him to the crocodiles. Here's the key to freedom, but you'll never use it.
But that arrogance is always his downfall. It's what lets them get this far. So Sanji immediately puts it together. He's yelling at him to hand it over. And what does this clown do? He just chucks it, throws it right into the water outside the cage, laughing. Pure, pathetic spite.
This is why you can't reason with these Baroque Works agents. Their loyalty is to cruelty first, and themselves second. He knows he's doomed. He's in a cage with people who want him dead, so his last act is to try and take them with him. It's petty, it's small, and it's completely in character. Sanji is about to kick the bars off the cage in pure rage. I mean, you can't blame him.
That was their one shot. You can feel the desperation. Everyone is just watching this tiny glimmer of hope sink to the bottom of a crocodile-infested pool. It feels like the end. But then the MVP of the moment steps up, not with a kick, but with his brain. Usopp.
Usopp grabs Sanji, holds him back, and points out the obvious thing that everyone missed in their panic. It's a moment that really defines the different kinds of intelligence within the crew. Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro are masters of combat intelligence, reading an opponent, finding a weakness, acting on instinct. Nami is a master of navigational and financial intelligence, but Usopp has this incredible lateral thinking ability.
He tells him to calm down, think about it. Mr. Three's whole power is making wax. He doesn't need to have a key, he just can make a key. The look on Sanji's face when he realizes, it's like a light bulb just exploded over his head.
It's such a brilliant moment for him. We saw this back at Arlong Park, his tactical thinking against Chu. We saw it on Little Garden. He's not just the sniper or the funny guy. When the situation seems impossible, Usopp is often the one who finds the 1 in a million out-of-the-box solution. Sanji's instinct is righteous fury to protect his friends by eliminating the threat. Usopp's instinct is creative problem-solving to manipulate the situation to their advantage.
And that's what makes the Straw Hats so dangerous. They have every angle covered. Sanji switches gears instantly. He doesn't argue, he doesn't get mad at Usopp for stopping him. He trusts his crewmate's insight. He goes from blind rage to cold, calculated intimidation. He grabs Mr. Three by his stupid frilly collar and basically threatens to end him if he doesn't make a new key, right now.
The art in this panel is fantastic. Sanji's face is pure menace. He's not even yelling anymore. It's a quiet, terrifying threat. And Mr. Three, who is fundamentally a coward, completely folds.
It's a beautiful bit of teamwork. Usopp provides the strategy, Sanji provides the aggressive motivation, and Mr. Three, terrified, complies. He whips up a perfect wax duplicate of the key he just threw away. It's shaky, you can see he's sweating buckets, but he does it.
And Sanji, ever the gentleman even in a crisis, tells him, make sure it fits Nami-san's cuffs first. His priorities are always clear.
Always. He's a real hero. So just like that, they're free. Sanji unlocks the cage and everyone spills out. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Nami, and even Smoker. They're all out.
But the problem hasn't shrunk. They're still in a locked room underwater with a small army of giant crocodiles who are presumably still very hungry.
Right. Sanji even says something like, now we just have to deal with them, but Vivi points out that it's going to be impossible. They're exhausted, Luffy and Smoker are still weakened from the sea stone, and they're facing down, half a dozen giant carnivorous reptiles? But when they look, the Bananawanis are already out cold. Every single one of them, lumps on the bottom of the pool.
They were already defeated, which can only mean one thing. There's a moment of confusion from everyone. Zoro is like, what happened? They're all looking around for the cause.
And then the camera pans to Luffy, who's just stretching like it was nothing. He did it. While trapped in a sea stone cage, weakened to the point he can barely stand, and waiting for a key, he was still fighting. He was taking out these giant monsters from inside the bars. He wasn't waiting for a rescue. He was just taking care of business.
It's a quiet testament to his nature, and it's one of my favorite subtle Luffy moments in the entire series. Most protagonists, when put in a situation like this, would be focused entirely on escape. Their agency is removed. But Luffy never allows his agency to be removed. He is never truly helpless. The world might impose conditions on him, a cage, sea stone, but he will always find a way to act within those conditions. He is always pushing forward, always fighting, no matter the circumstances.
It's like the bars of the cage weren't a wall to him, they were just an inconvenient part of the battlefield. He probably just stretched his arms out between the bars and went to work on all of them until they were knocked out. He solved the next problem before they'd even finished solving the first one. That's a captain right there. That's thinking 2 steps ahead, even if it's just instinct.
And good thing too, because they don't have a second to spare. Just as they realize what he's done, the walls of the room start cracking under the pressure from the river outside, and then they just shatter. Water comes rushing in, flooding everything.
It's an absolute deluge. The whole casino is going under. Oda draws the sheer force of it so well. It's not a leak, it's an explosion of water. Total chaos.
But in that chaos, the Straw Hats are in their element. They're a pirate crew. They're used to the water. They manage to find a way out and swim for the surface. Everyone is fighting their way up.
But not everyone can. Smoker, with his devil fruit powers, is completely helpless in the water. Devil fruit users are hammers in the ocean. We've seen it time and time again, ever since Buggy's crew first explained it to us. He's just sinking, drowning. His body goes limp. All that power, all that Smoker-wielding menace is gone.
And Sanji sees it. He's right there, swimming up with Nami and Usopp. He's almost to the surface, almost safe. But in the middle of their own desperate escape, he turns, looks right at Zoro, who's swimming nearby, and gives an order.
He just says, save him. 4 words, not a request, not a suggestion, a captain's order. Save the Marine Vice Admiral who has dedicated himself to your capture. The man whose entire goal since Logtown has been to end your dream and put you in a cell.
Think about the implications of that. This is the moment where Oda firmly establishes that Luffy operates on a completely different moral axis than the world government, and even from most other pirates. He doesn't see a marine, he sees a person who, despite being his enemy, isn't evil. He's not a scumbag like Crocodile or a corrupt officer like Captain Nuzini. Smoker has his own code of justice.
We saw in Logtown, he let him go to the gallows because he wanted to see what would happen. He was interested in him. He's not just a blind enforcer, he's a thinking man. And Luffy recognizes that. He respects it, even if they're on opposite sides. There's no malice between them. It's a rivalry, a chase. And Luffy's not going to let a guy like that drown on his watch. It's just not in him.
And Zoro doesn't even hesitate. There's not a single panel of him questioning it. He doesn't say, but Captain, he's a Marine. He doesn't say, are you sure? The captain said save him, so he grabs Smoker and drags him to the surface. That's the loyalty. That's the trust in Luffy's judgment. It speaks volumes about their relationship. Zoro trusts Luffy's moral compass implicitly.
That's his first mate right there. He understands the captain's will without needing an explanation. It's one of the most important moments in the entire series for me. It sets the stage for this incredible long-running dynamic. It's not just pirate versus marine, it's man versus man, code versus code. Luffy just drew a line in the sand and said, my code is bigger than your labels.
And the consequences are immediate. They surface in the middle of the river that runs through Rain Base, and they are immediately surrounded by Smoker's marine forces. They're on the shore, cornered. It seems like it's over.
They've got every one of them at sword and gunpoint. This is it. Checkmate. They escaped the cage just to be captured out in the open. But then Smoker, still coughing up water, gives his own order.
Wait. He tells his own soldiers to stand down. It's a single word, but it carries the weight of his entire worldview being shattered.
He literally tells them to let the Straw Hats go, just for now. The Marines are stunned, completely bewildered, but he's adamant. He can't, in good conscience, arrest the people who just saved his life.
He repays the debt instantly. It's an act of honor, but it's clearly more than that. You can see it on his face. This has completely shattered his perception of who Straw Hat Luffy is. He's been chasing a pirate, a criminal defined by a wanted poster. But the person who just saved him doesn't fit that definition. A pirate just showed more honor and humanity than most people he knows.
It's not about good and evil anymore. It's way more complicated. He still has his duty, of course. He tells one of his men to call in reinforcements from the main fleet. He's not letting them off the hook forever. He's not abandoning his job.
But for this one moment, in this one city, his personal code of honor overrides his duty as a Marine. He tells his troops to not lay a hand on them in this city. He's compartmentalizing. He is creating a temporary truce based on a personal debt, and in doing so, he's acknowledging that the world government's definition of justice isn't the only one that matters. That is a massive shift for a man like Smoker.
It's huge. So the Straw Hats use the opening and they just book it. They're running through the streets of Rain Base trying to figure out their next move. Luffy is just like, thanks, Smokey, like it's no big deal, which just confuses Smoker even more.
And Vivi has an idea. She asks Nami for the perfume she's wearing. It's a very specific, strong-smelling perfume. It's a small detail, but it shows Vivi is thinking on her feet, using every available resource.
And we don't have to wait long to see why. Suddenly, barreling down the street towards them is Chopper.
Riding on top of a giant desert crab, a huge blue-shelled crustacean moving at incredible speed. The citizens of Rain Base are just diving out of the way.
It is so absurd and so perfect. Of course Chopper found a giant crab to ride. Of course. He explains that he found them by following Nami's scent with his reindeer nose, which is just smart thinking. And it's such a Chopper solution, combining his animal abilities with his desire to help.
And the crab, he's a friend of Matsuge, the camel.
The network is expanding. The Straw Hat Grand Fleet of weird, loyal animal friends is growing, and I am so here for it. First Matsuge and now this giant crab. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes One Piece so much fun. It's this sense of found family that extends beyond just humans.
It's also a good time to mention Oda's author comment for this week. He says, "To whoever sent us the mountain of dove sables, thank you, very sable. We're all sabling on them."
The man loves his puns. It's good to know the whole studio was well fed while drawing our crew riding a giant crab through a desert city. You can feel the good vibes in the art.
So they all hop on. It's their ride out of the city, their path to get Vivi to the palace in Alubana and stop the rebellion. They're finally making progress. They have a plan, they have transport, and they've just escaped 2 impossible situations back to back. There's a moment of hope.
For about 5 seconds, because then a shadow falls over them, and a giant golden hook shoots out and snags Vivi, yanking her right off the crab.
It's Crocodile. He's found them. He's been watching. He's not letting them out of sight. He appears from a sandstorm, looking utterly composed and powerful. The brief moment of levity is gone. The final boss has reappeared.
Vivi is dangling from his hook, helpless. It looks like it's over. She failed. He says something like, "Where do you think you're going, Miss Wednesday?" It's so dismissive, so cruel. But Luffy is just built different.
He leaps without a thought. While everyone else is in shock, he's already in motion. He pushes Vivi off the hook, freeing her. But in the process, the hook sinks into him. He takes her place.
He's hanging there, caught by Crocodile, the gold hook impaled through his clothes and shoulder, and he looks back at his crew on the crab, and he just yells at them. He tells them to go, to get Vivi to Alubarna. He tells them to go on without him. "I'll follow you later. Go!"
He made his choice. It's not even a choice for him. It's an instinct. The mission, Vivi's mission, is paramount. He understands that Crocodile is the roadblock, and his job as the captain is to clear that roadblock so his crew can succeed. He's making his stand.
This is it. This is the promise he made to Vivi back in the desert when she was hitting him. He said he'd kick Crocodile's butt, and he's not running. He's putting everything on the line, right here, to give his friends the time they need to save the country. He's taking on a warlord, alone, for the 2nd time. That is a captain. That is leadership. That is super.
He understands the stakes completely. His fight isn't the most important thing. Vivi reaching the capital is. So he's creating the ultimate diversion, facing an opponent who has already defeated him once, seemingly without effort, leaving him for dead in the sand. From a logical standpoint, this is a suicide mission.
But this time feels different. The look in his eyes. He's not just fighting for himself or for the title of Pirate King. He's fighting for his friend's home. And that's a whole other level of motivation for Monkey D. Luffy. We saw what he did for Nami's village. We're about to see what he'll do for Vivi's kingdom.
The chapter ends there, with him caught on the hook, telling his friends to leave him behind. An absolutely brutal cliffhanger. The final panel is a close-up on his determined face. There's no fear there, only resolve.
Man, what a chapter. It just never lets up for a single second. From the comedy of Mr. 3 to the high-stakes action of the flood to the deep character moments with Smoker and back to sheer epic heroism at the end. It's got everything.
Truly a masterclass in pacing. Oda uses every panel to either advance the plot, develop a character, or build the world. And in this chapter, he's doing all 3 simultaneously.
It really is. Okay, before we get to predictions, if you've got a moment that stood out to you in this chapter, was it Usopp's quick thinking or Luffy's order to save Smoker? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing which beats hit the hardest for you all.
All right, predictions for chapter 177. What do you have for me?
Okay, prediction 1. The next chapter is going to be almost entirely the fight. Luffy versus Crocodile, round 2. No cutaways to the crew, no check-in with the rebel army, just a full-throttle, desperate battle in the middle of the desert. The story has been building to this rematch, and I think it's time.
I could see that. Oda does like to give these major fights their own dedicated space to breathe, to let the tension build without interruption.
Prediction 2. The rest of the crew on their giant crab will not have an easy ride to Alubarna. I think they're going to be intercepted by another Baroque Works agent. My money's on Mr. 2, Bon Clay. He's the perfect agent to cause confusion and stall them, and we haven't seen him in a bit. He could impersonate one of them and throw the whole group into chaos.
A clash with Bon Clay would be narratively very interesting, especially with Sanji there. Okay, my turn. My first prediction is that we will see the fight, but we'll see it partially from Miss Allsunday's perspective. She'll be watching from a distance, completely stone-faced, and her presence there will raise a lot of questions about her true allegiance. Is she there to ensure Luffy loses, or is she there to see if he can actually do the impossible and defeat her boss?
Ooh, I like that. The ever-present observer. Seeing the fight through her eyes would give it a totally different vibe. What else?
Second, I think we'll get a brief scene with Smoker. He won't just be calling for reinforcements. I predict he will give a direct and specific order to his Marines to focus on Baroque Works and to not engage with the Straw Hats unless absolutely necessary. He's going to actively keep them out of the Straw Hats' way, deepening the conflict between his duty and his personal code.
Bro, that would be so good. His subordinates would be so conflicted trying to follow an order that goes against their entire worldview as Marines. Okay, one more each.
My last prediction is a small one. I think we'll get a single panel flashback showing exactly how Luffy took down the Bananawanis from inside the cage. It'll be a quick, impactful shot of him using his gum-gum powers in a clever way through the bars. Maybe a flurry of punches that hits all of them at once, just to hammer home that he was never truly a prisoner.
I love that. A little punctuation mark on his badassery. All right, my last one. I predict that during the fight, Crocodile is going to mock Luffy for getting beaten so easily the first time. He'll be arrogant, toying with him, but Luffy is going to reveal he's figured something out. He's not going to win yet, but he's going to land the first clean, solid hit on Crocodile in this entire arc, proving he's learned from his failure and shocking Crocodile to his core.
A sign of weakness from the invincible warlord. That would be the perfect way to start round 2. An indication that this time, things will be different.